It started as a normal evening, the kind that slips quietly into the night without anyone noticing. The air was still, the streets were empty, and the faint hum of distant electricity filled the silence like a low whisper. There was nothing unusual about that night, at least not at first. The clock ticked slowly on the wall, each second stretching longer than the last, as if time itself had begun to hesitate. You know that feeling when something is just slightly off, but you can't explain why? That's how it began. A subtle discomfort, like being watched from somewhere just out of sight. Not close enough to see, not far enough to ignore. It settled in the back of the mind like a quiet warning you couldn't quite hear clearly, but you knew it was there. The lights flickered once, just once, and then everything returned to normal, or at least it seemed that way. I remember sitting there, staring at the screen, trying to convince myself that it was nothing. Old wiring, maybe, a random glitch, something explainable, something safe. But deep down, there was a growing tension, a quiet pressure building in my mind. Minutes passed. Then it happened again. This time, the flicker lasted longer. The room dimmed, shadows stretching unnaturally across the walls, twisting into shapes that didn't make sense, shapes that seemed to breathe. I blinked, thinking my eyes were playing tricks on me, but when I opened them again, the shadows were gone. That's when I heard it. It's a faint sound, not loud enough to identify, but just enough to notice. It came from somewhere behind me. Slowly, carefully, I turned my head. My heart was pounding now, each beat louder than the last. But there was nothing there, and yet, the feeling didn't go away. It got stronger. Like something had moved closer, like something had taken a step forward when I wasn't looking. I told myself to relax, to ignore it, but fear grows. It spreads. It begins to rewrite your thoughts until every silence feels intentional. I stood up, trying to shake it off. But the moment I did, the sound came again. Closer this time, a soft scrape right behind me. I froze. Every instinct told me not to turn around. But curiosity is dangerous. Slowly, I began to turn. But before we go further, like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps, and you might want to stay for what happens next, because this is where things start to get worse. Much worse. I finally turned around. Nothing. Again. Empty. Silent. Still, but something had changed. The air felt heavier, like the room itself was closing in. The silence was suffocating. Then I noticed the door. It was slightly open. I was sure I had closed it. Completely, no doubt. I always close it. Always. I walked toward it slowly, each step echoing louder than it should. My hand reached for the handle, hesitating just inches away, and that's when I heard breathing. Not mine. Slow, deliberate. Right on the other side of the door. I stepped back immediately. There was no doubt anymore. Something was there. Something real. Something waiting. The breathing stopped. For a moment, everything was silent again. And then a knock. 3 slow taps, perfectly spaced. As if whatever was out there knew exactly how to build tension, how to make you wait, how to make you afraid. Another knock, this time louder, more impatient. The handle moved slightly, just a small twitch, but enough to make my blood run cold. The door creaked open, just enough to reveal darkness on the other side. This was different, thicker, deeper, like the presence of something else. And then, from within that darkness, something moved. Not fast, but slow enough that you could see it clearly. A shape, tall, unnatural, standing just beyond the doorway, watching, waiting, and you realize it wasn't trying to get in, it was waiting for you to invite it. My throat tightened. Why would it wait? Unless it couldn't, unless it needed permission. The idea hit me like ice. It was following rules. Rules I didn't understand, but rules that kept me barely safe. For now. I took a step back. The figure didn't move, didn't react. It just stood there, as if studying me, learning, waiting for a mistake. And then it tilted its head, just slightly, and I heard it. A voice, soft, broken, almost human. Let me in. I shook my head slowly. No, I wasn't going to respond, because somehow I knew that was exactly what it wanted. Silence stretched again. Long, heavy, endless. And then the figure smiled. Not a normal smile. Too wide, too still, too wrong. It wasn't waiting for permission anymore. It was waiting for me to break, because sooner or later, everyone does. And when they do, they always open the door.